everyone, welcome back to Mutual Understanding. It is the 2nd of April 2026, it's a Thursday, and it is now 11:49 in the evening. Today we'll be looking at the global AI economy, builders, buyers, and the battle for sovereignty. If I asked you to measure the economic health of a country, what metrics would you look at? You probably check GDP, unemployment rates, and perhaps consumer spending. But as of April 2026, these traditional metrics are suddenly lagging indicators. Today, the most vital measure of a nation's economic future is something entirely new. It's AI adoption velocity. Just recently, we saw a massive headline out of Sydney. The AI giant Anthropic signed a first-of-its-kind memorandum of understanding with the Australian government. So why does a sovereign nation need to sign a data-sharing pact with a private tech company? The answer is simple. Governments are currently flying blind. Before this deal, Australia had no real way of knowing its workforce was actually adapting to the AI revolution or simply being left behind. Under this new agreement, Anthropic will share its aggregated economics index data with Canberra. They aren't just sharing personal chat logs, they are sharing macro level trends. And they are tracking how AI is penetrating the market, task by task, industry by industry. What does this look like in practice? Let me give you an example. Let's look at the professional service sector. Anthropic's data can flag a sudden 500% spike in API calls coming from corporate law firms or financial institutions. The data shows that the AI is being used for high-skill, complex workflows like processing 500 M&A documents in seconds. By seeing this trend in real time, the Australian government doesn't have to wait for an unemployment crisis among junior lawyers and analysts. They can proactively shift their national AI plan, funding targeted upskilling programs so those junior workers learn to manage and audit AI rather than competing against it. But this brings us to a crucial concept. AI literacy. Yes, we got literacy, which means whether you know how to write or read, and we've got AI literacy. Are we just measuring who logs in? No. AI literacy is exactly like traditional literacy. It exists on a spectrum. Level 1, this is basic. Treating AI like a search engine, like Google, like Yahoo, like Microsoft. Level 2 is intermediate, using it as an assistant to summarize notes, to translate, to extract text, etc. Level 3 is AI fluency, treating the AI as a complex reasoning engine to automate massive enterprise systems. Australia's goal with this data is to figure out exactly where their citizens sit on that spectrum and push them toward level 3. The investors and Rulemakers, Singapore and South Korea. Now Australia is using this partnership to track the economy, but if you look slightly north to Singapore, we are seeing a completely different strategy. Why isn't Singapore signing a simple data sharing memorandum with Anthropic? Because they don't need to. They already bought a seat at the table. Earlier this year, Singapore's Sovereign Wealth Fund, GIC, led a staggering $30 billion funding round into Anthropic. When your country is one of the largest financial backers of Frontier AI Lab, you have direct visibility into its trajectory. But Singapore is also playing offense on regulation. While Australia relies on voluntary guidelines, Singapore is writing the global rulebook. At Davos this year, they rolled out the Model AI Governance Framework for Agentic AI. They are actively setting the standards for how autonomous AI agents can legally operate in global finance. They are backing the most ethical AI company to ensure their status as the world's most trusted, highly regulated financial hub remains bulletproof. What about South Korea? Are they just sitting on the sidelines? Absolutely not. South Korea is executing what we call a two-track sovereign strategy. Historically, Seoul was deeply tied to OpenAI, but putting all your national tech eggs in one basket is a massive vulnerability, so they pivoted. The government is currently finalizing safety deals with Anthropic, but the private sector is already years ahead. SK Telecom, the country's massive telecom carrier, didn't just invest 100 million into Anthropic. They're actively co-developing a custom multilingual AI model specifically for the global telecommunications industry. At the same time, South Korea is pouring billions into its homegrown tech companion, Naver, to build strictly sovereign models for sensitive sectors like defense, like healthcare, and they are diversifying their portfolio to ensure they are never held hostage by a single American tech giant. Part 3. The hardware and the grassroots. Now, let's take a look at Taiwan and India. This brings us to the physical reality of AI. Software is weightless, but it requires incredibly heavy iron to run. That brings us to Taiwan. Does Taiwan care about tracking Anthropic's API usage? Not really. Why? Because Taiwan manufactures the very foundation that AI exists upon. Almost all the advanced semiconductors that power these massive models, whether designed by NVIDIA, Google, or Amazon, are manufactured by TSMC in Taiwan. Taiwan controls the upstream choke point of the entire global AI economy. In fact, Anthropic recently lobbied the US government to tighten export controls on these exact chips to maintain global security. But Taiwan is also fiercely protective of its culture. They are building the TAID project, a sovereign language model trained on traditional Chinese and democratic values, because relying on foreign AI to process your national identity is a geopolitical risk. And speaking of sovereign infrastructure, look at India. India is not trying to build a trillion-parameter AI to write Hollywood scripts. They are executing the India AI mission. How does India view AI? They view it as a digital public infrastructure. Just like they built a nationwide digital payment system, they are subsidizing local startups to build highly efficient, smaller models tailored to India's 22 official languages. They want AI that can optimize agricultural yields for rural farmers or provide diagnostics in understaffed clinics. Yet, India remains the ultimate battleground for enterprise tech. In February 2026, Anthropic's CEO was front and center at the India AI Impact Summit in New Delhi. India is rapidly becoming the inference capital of the world, the place where AI is actually applied at a population scale. And to win there, Western companies must prove their models are incredibly safe and culturally aligned. Part 4. The Global Scorecard. Who is actually winning? So, we've looked at the strategies. Now let's look at the hard data. The macroeconomics projections for 2026 and beyond are staggering. Gartner forecasts that the worldwide spending on AI will hit 2.5 trillion this year. Goldman Sachs estimates this technology will drive a 7% increase in global GDP over the next decade. But here is the most fascinating question of all. Who is actually using this technology? The data reveals a massive paradox. Who is the undisputed king of building AI? That's United States. The US accounts for over 60% of all private AI funding globally. They are building the data centers, the chips, and the foundation models. But are Americans actually using it? Surprisingly, no. Despite building the tech, only about 28% of the US working-age population uses AI regularly, ranking them the 24th globally. The US is building the engine, but the everyday workforce isn't learned how to drive the car. So, who are the secret adopters? It's the UAE and Singapore. The UAE has a massive 64% adoption rate. They aren't just using it for writing emails. They've integrated AI across 9 key public sectors. Singapore is right behind them at 61%, embedding AI into smart city logistics and global supply chains. Meanwhile, the UK has leaned into its strengths, becoming the global leader in automating white-collar work, deploying AI aggressively across its massive financial and legal sectors. And China is heavily subsidizing industrial AI, focusing on robotics, computer vision, and advanced manufacturing. Part 5. The conclusion. As we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a clear picture of the global board. We have the trackers like Australia trying to map the future before it disrupts their workplace. We have the rulemakers and investors like Singapore buying their way into the core of the technology. We have the hardware controllers like Taiwan and grassroots builders like India fighting for digital sovereignty. The era of AI being a novelty is over. We're now in the era of deployment, integration, and economic survival. The company and countries that will thrive will not necessarily be the ones who build the biggest model. They will be the ones who actually achieve level 3 AI fluency across the workforce. So I'll leave you with these final thoughts. Are you just watching the data change, or are you actively shaping how your organization adopts it? That's all for today. I'll see you in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and comment your nonsense below. I'll see you in the next one.